YouTube, what up guys? It's been a little while. We're back with the videos. And last weekend, Bitcoin dropped a pretty staggering amount, mostly because it happened so quick. Take a look at the chart to see the drop from this weekend. Now, obviously, the first question everyone's asking is, does this mean the Bitcoin bull run is over? Is it already over? Is the 12K top? Is that going to be it? Are we now due to consolidate? Are we going to drop to 6K? All these big questions being thrown around. And maybe they make sense, especially when you look at the big numbers, like $1 billion in liquidations happened last weekend. What does that mean? Well, people that were leveraged long or bought Bitcoin with margin, they didn't put down full collateral, they were trading on BitMax or somewhere else, they had to close those positions or got liquidated. So that caused a cascading move where the markets were kind of thin on the weekend, and it caused this cascading effect I've covered in the podcast before of a very sharp move down for Bitcoin. So the big question is the bull run over? And my take on that is I don't think it is. I'm going to look at the charts, so stick around after the intro. I'm going to give you my take on what I'm looking at for Bitcoin, why I'm still bullish, and the new news coming out from the central bank, which I think will help markets all over. Stick around, guys. I think you're going to enjoy this. All right, so check this out. This article came out last night on CNBC, and this journalist was reporting that the Fed, or the U.S. Central Bank, is expected to make major commitment to ramp up inflation soon. Now, what does that mean? People talk about money printing a lot. People talk about the Fed propping up stocks or why stocks only go up, right? You've probably heard people say that. I'm not here to talk about what's going to happen in 5 and 10 years and why printing money means Bitcoin's going to be $1 million or that stocks only go up. Who knows what's going to happen long term? I don't think that's too helpful to try to predict 2, 4, 5, 10 years out in the future. Obviously, it's good to have a direction in mind, but short term, what do I think this means for Bitcoin? Well, the market's perception of what's going to happen is probably more important than the long-term effect in the short term. And right now, the market's perception, if the Fed is expecting to continue to be committed to ramping up inflation, basically not raising rates and allowing the markets to flourish, continuing to be accommodative, that is positive. And when I say positive, I mean positive for a few different assets, not just Bitcoin. We're already seeing silver and gold rip higher. We're seeing stocks continue to push higher. And it has some people scratching their heads saying, look, we should be in a recession. Coronavirus is still raging on. How are equities doing so well? How are these metals doing so well? And I think in large part, it has to do with the central bank policy. And them coming out and committing to staying this accommodative is also good for, you know what, digital gold as well, right? Bitcoin will benefit. The bet is long-term, but in the short term, them making this commitment, I think, is also positive short-term. So if those markets do well, I've covered this in previous shows, Bitcoin and the S&P are not always correlated. In fact, in history, right, if we go back 10 years, the returns have been uncorrelated. That's what makes Bitcoin so attractive. There's different things driving its returns. But now that one of the driving forces, the Fed or the central bank's policy, is affecting both of these things directly. So I think Bitcoin is a direct benefactor of this, and them being accommodative not only helps gold and silver, we're already seeing that, I think that continues to help investors as they look at Bitcoin as a very risky asset, also as an alternative to fiat, and as maybe a digital commodity. All three of those things are benefiting from the central bank stance right now. So from a macro, big picture perspective, that's all quite positive for Bitcoin. Now let's also take a look at the chart. I mentioned this in the intro, we had that 10% drop over the weekend. Now obviously Bitcoin ever since July has been on a tear. We moved from like 8K or 7K up to 12K in a matter of days. Now one of the easiest strategies that I think people ignore, and I've covered this in a video, if you want to watch it, it's right above my head, click that link, also down in the description. I covered the easiest strategy for having a view or a bias on Bitcoin. Right? All I mean by bias is having some way to determine where you think it's going to move that month. Have some kind of objective filter, some kind of tool that helps you determine it rather than emotions and saying, oh, I think it goes higher or I think it goes lower. And that level or that tool or that trick is just using the monthly open. When I covered it in the video, right, we were in July and I said, look, if Bitcoin can start trading above its monthly open, right here, right, any daily close, if we start closing back above this monthly open, right here, 9,200, 9,100, I probably want to be long with the expectation that if the monthly is green, there's going to be more days that Bitcoin is up in July than it's down. I want to be positioned long for the month of July. I think you can use that exact same strategy right now for August, and I think you're going to be able to use it for the rest of this run, even when the run is over. right? If Bitcoin is trading above its monthly open, above high time frame opens, it should at least give you a bias. Obviously, you have to think about other things as well. Like, what's the macro picture? How are other assets doing? Right? What's the Fed stance? How are investors and traders perceiving what's happening in the world? Are they willing to take the risk or are they not? Right? Those things are driving the markets. Those things do play a role, so you should probably keep them in mind. Using the monthly open is just one tool, but since I covered it about 30 days ago, it's been incredibly helpful, right? Bitcoin is already up, 25, call it 20%. And today we have Bitcoin attempting to push back above its monthly open. So I know that we're a little bit extended, right? Bitcoin just had a serious 20 or 25% push last month. But at the same time, with central banks in the macro picture being quite accommodative for metals, for equities, and I also think for Bitcoin, it starts to tilt me to thinking we have continuation. Now, I wouldn't rule out a move down to 10K, right? Dips are going to happen. I wouldn't rule out a move down to 10.5. In my opinion, those are dips for buying. If we start to see monthly and weekly candles turning red and we see the momentum dying and we also see, metals and stocks all turning over, then you have some warning signs. But until that happens, I'm still quite bullish. This 10% sell-off that happened last weekend does not really shake me out of wanting to be long Bitcoin. Right? And some people are going to get mad when I say this, but the vast majority of people shouldn't be trading anyways. You should just be using these high time frame biases or a high time frame filter to have some understanding of what we're going to do in the next month, what we're going to do in the next 3 months, and the next 6 months. Obviously, you'll never be able to predict that, but by having a simple filter, you can add on or stay long, right? Keep that exposure, or you can start to tilt that exposure back to neutral, right? Looking to take profits. Moving in and out on, if you think it's going to pop today or if you think it's going to drop tomorrow is probably a losing game for most of you. And that sucks to say, but it's just the truth. If everyone made money trading, everyone would be a trader, right? So as I look at the high time frame picture, macro-wise, it looks good for Bitcoin. Yes, there was a 10% sell-off last weekend, but I'm not too worried about it. If we start closing back above the monthly, especially if it happens today, I start to look at prices right now the same way I looked at them in early July. Right? That is my view on Bitcoin. That's the new news from the Fed that I still think is quite positive for Bitcoin. If that picture changes, then I'm worried. If the chart changes and we start to see monthly and weekly candles closing red, then my opinion changes. Until then, I am positioned long on Bitcoin, and I'm still quite bullish. I'm not giving that up yet, just for a little 10% dip last weekend. So that's all I got. A little update as we head into a new month. Drop a comment down below. I want to see how many of you guys are long and expecting me to move up, or if you think now we're ready for a dip to the 6 or 8K. Please drop a comment. Helps me understand what other people are doing. I think you'll get a good sense of what other investors and traders are doing, and it's just fun to interact with you guys. Also, hit subscribe and like down below. It helps me continue growing the channel. I'm back in the office. We got a lot to cover, so stay tuned. I think you're going to enjoy some of these episodes. And last thing before I let you go, Crypto.com has been sponsoring these episodes so that I can make them every single day. I can share my opinions. I can keep you guys up to date with what's happening in the crypto market, the most important news. And the reason I'm working with Crypto.com is because they have a killer mobile app. Download the mobile app right down below. I'm going to show you it right here on my phone, right? Download the app. It looks like this. It's one of the easiest places to buy Bitcoin. Not Coinbase, not Gemini. You can buy Bitcoin, incredibly low fees, sometimes no fees. Then it's right there on your wallet. You can send it wherever you want. You can trade it if you want, or you can just store it. Crypto.com, download the app. Do that today. Thank me later next time you want to buy some Bitcoin. That's all I got, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.